we get married, we're not supposed to like sex, and we're not supposed to like this, and we're not supposed to do this. If you take the time to learn your guy's fantasy, and that's what it's all about, and your fantasies, and do them together.
Well, there you go. All right, Jane, thank you so much.
Short and sweet.
Well, we got to keep it short because we got Brian Cox in studio. He has sat down on the couch. Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Bye.
Hello, sir.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
My God.
We just
It's a very strange microphone. Anyway.
Is it?
It's invasive.
I can't hear you. I mean,
Why should he be able to hear the
Why
show?
would we test the headphones?
Why wouldn't we test the headphones? That
No,
better?
Can't hear him.
Can someone turn the headphones on?
Maybe he's just
I thought it was
playing.
perhaps a torture you were trying to put me through.
It's a little joke we play on people.
Everything you said.
We just talk about you while you're sitting there with the headphones on.
Why wouldn't these be tested? And why is Kenny looking at it like he might know
He's
anything
gonna bite
about
through it like
that?
a rat.
Nobody else moved around.
He's got
He actually gave you a real answer.
Yeah, that was the real Kenny that came out for a second.
Yeah,
What did he say?
Hey.
No one else moved around. That was defensive / aggressive, hateful Kenny.
That's got to work.
Yeah, it has to work.
Better.
How's
Third
that?
time's a charm.
Good.
Yeah,
Now you can hear the callers and everything.
Just for phone calls. We're talking about sex addiction and, you know.
Could you mind who's who?
Opie, Anthony, Jim Norton.
Jim Norton.
You blew off Jim Norton one time in your past.
Hurt my feelings.
Did you?
Yeah. He wasn't mean. He just hurt my feelings a little.
What happened?
I'm very sensitive.
Well, I know that, but...
Well, I know Jim Norton, fun enough. Was it a misunderstanding? Because there's an old friend of mine who's called Jim Norton. He's an actor.
Is he?
Irish actor.
Oh, no. I'm not. I could say I act, but I won't call myself an actor.
He's an actor.
Norton?
Yeah. I mean, I'm Irish,
well,
too.
that's Jim Norton.
How old is he, though? Is he like an old-time actor? Or is he?
Yeah, he's about 60.
Okay. I'm sure his credits are a lot better than mine. I'm like a 5 and under guy.
He was in The Weir on Broadway, and he did Dublin Carol on Broadway. So.
I'm not really good at...
He was in Lucky Louie on HBO.
Ah.
Yeah, I was on a show that got canned, and I had one line in Spider-Man, and I've been in probably 5 of the worst independent films ever done.
How did I hurt?
I went to the premiere of Match Point, which was an amazing film, and you were great in it. And I wanted to get photos with everybody, because that's just what I do.
That's what Jimmy does.
And the highlight, I got to be honest, I'm a comedian, so Woody Allen, for me, my manager, we're the same manager, introduced me to Woody. And I mean, that was... You know, and Sun Yi, in all fairness, odd head, not good in person.
Yeah?
And, strange-looking girl.
Oh, okay.
And
I didn't know that.
got a picture with Woody and Scarlett Johansson. That's where I got my Scarlett Johansson picture.
Oh, very beautiful girl.
And I asked Brian, he said no.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all you're going to get.
I'm sorry. I don't make a policy of it. Sometimes, it's funny. I sometimes my Native American blood creeps in, and I think you're going to capture my soul. And I say, no,
Yeah. See, that's what happens when they snap your picture.
Yeah, but I've been doing it recently. I've been doing a play recently, so it's been happening on a regular basis. So if you were standing outside the Duke of York's Theatre in St. Martin's Lane in the last 4 months, you would have had your picture taken with me, and I really apologize.
That's right. I was just hurt.
People must ask you a lot, though, now, especially with the X-Men stuff. I mean, you get a lot. That's a whole different breed of fan.
It's always difficult when you get somebody who comes up with you with no teeth and cross eyes and hair. Not that I'm saying you look like this, but, and they want to have your photograph taken with you. You go, it just feels a little weird sometimes.
Yeah. Well, the X-Men crowd also, anytime you make a comic book movie, you're going to get a certain fan base that's probably different than other movies you've made. To be polite. Geeks.
Yeah, but that's okay. I don't mind that. Most fans are geeks anyway. And nice geeks. There's nothing wrong with geeks. I'm told you're geeks, but I don't know. We have tendency. Some of us have tendency to be a little more geeks, be into the old technology thing. Laszlo, here. He's a geek.
Hello, sir.
But there's nothing wrong with being a geek.
Correct, unless you're addicted to porn.
No. Geeks are what make the world go round.
You're like a real trained, he's intimidating because, just as an actor, he's like a real actor. He's not a guy who just, is a comedian that got a gig. This guy's you're a stage actor, like a guy that could, stand on stage with Hopkins and make it work, or anybody in the business. And I have an audition today, and I'm just trying to figure out, how do I tilt my head when I horribly deliver this line?
Now, look, you have a professional here. Maybe you could get a little guidance.
This is my biggest problem when I act. Besides the whole lack of ability thing, what do you do with your hands? I ask every actor we interview this. I never know what to do with my hands. I always feel like when if I'm sitting down, I can just kind of put them, fold my arms, hold my legs. But when I'm standing, I just feel like a stiff idiot. And I either put them on my hips like a superhero, or I just hang them like I'm kind of dead.
it's not.
He just realized he has his work cut out for him.
Yeah, where do I begin?
Brian, he's serious.
I know.
Him out.
No. I think that it is hard to know what to do with your hands. I mean, I even have times when I find it really difficult to know what to do with my hands, and sometimes I put my hands in my pockets, or sometimes I sit on them or what have you. Or,
do you get a lot of direction about what to do with your hands?
No, they would never do that.
The director assumes you know what to do with your hands at this point if you've gotten to this point.
They wouldn't direct him that way. Me, they'd go, hey, stupid, the hand's no good. Stop waving at them like there's flies around you.
I think the thing to do is to just, a thing that's quite good is to put your thumb and your index fingers together before you do a take, and then just release it.
Oh.
So if you do that, if you hold that, and then you're doing a take, and if you have that problem, you just release it, and then you forget about it.
My problem is I'll forget to release it, and everything I say will look like I'm giving the A-OK sign.
Or smoking a roach.
Exactly, yeah.
I asked this to other guys we interviewed, too, like, what, is there anybody, because you've been in the business for a while, I mean, I think the 65 the while goes back to, so you've had a long history of work.
A long history.
Is there anybody you've done stage with or a film with where you just could not believe you were in a scene with this person? Like, I can't believe that I'm actually acting with this guy or this woman.
Yeah, there's been a few people like that who, Annette Bening, I mean, who's a fantastic actress, and she really puts you on your game. The great thing is when you work with a really good actor, because acting is, as Clint Eastwood said, it's all about reacting. It's not about acting. So, in a sense, if you work with a great actor,
I thought he was in the room.
Pardon?
I thought he was in the room.
Oh, you thought he was in the room. But it's true, Annette Benning's one, Morgan Freeman was another, what's his name, the other guy?
The other one.
Sam
Jackson?
Sam Jackson, Sam. I've been very lucky working with a lot of Ed Norton. There's a lot of guys that you work with who are
another
very
friend
good.
of Jimmy's.
Exactly.
Upsets me.
He must be a relation of yours, is he?
No, I actually met him at the Comedy Cellar. It's the first thing he said. He goes, hey, my brother's name is Jim. And I just said something like, stupid ass I am. I just nothing to say to the stars.
He's really good.
By the way, Brian, a lot of people don't know, do you get sick and tired of people asking about being, like, you were the first, like, Hannibal Lecter? I mean, that was you before Hockey Crew. You hate hearing about it, or?
No, it's very... I don't know. No, the thing about being the first... it's just one of those things that just goes on and on and on. I mean, I now fess up. I was the first Hannibal Lecter, and I'm very grateful. It's been opened a lot of doors for me, and whenever any film relating to that subject opens, I always get good reviews, which is nice, and I haven't done any of the work. So I'm very grateful to Hannibal Lecter.
Were you annoyed when they gave it to Hopkins for the other one, or you didn't care what anything to do with it?
I didn't even, originally there was a problem over the name. I don't know if you realize, but if you look at Hannibal Lecter in Manhunter and you look at Hannibal Lecter, he's spelt differently. He's actually called, I think he's Lektor, whereas in the other movies he's Lecktor. And there was a problem over the name, and they thought they couldn't use the name, so for a while he was called Quigley in one of the earlier drafts of Silence of the Lambs. I may have got this wrong because we had the same agent, and I remember my agent saying to me, Tony's going up for this role, which sounds very like the part you played. He's called Quigley, but it's written by Tom Harris in The Silence of the Lambs. And I said, oh, that's good. And then I realized it was the same role. But no, I was doing something else at the time. The irony, actually, this is much quoted, but the irony is that I was playing King Lear at the National Theatre when Tony was playing Hannibal Lecter. And when he was playing King Lear at the National Theatre, I was playing Hannibal Lecter. So it's kind of weird.
He just referred to Hopkins twice as Tony. Like, that's really good.
Don't you want to be there, Jimmy?
Yeah.
Don't you want to be there?
I still call him Anthony.
Somebody was singing your praises and saying, was it the gentleman with the green arms who met me at the door?
Oh, Creepy Steve, we call him?
Yeah, he said that you did a video game together and that you were a wonderful actor. He said he's a really good actor. I'm not an actor at all. Apparently he was in it as well.
That was very nice of you to relay, but here's what stupid Steve just did, and let me catch that bastard. He just wanted you to know that he did something, and he couldn't be so obnoxious to go, do you know I did a video game? Would you please tell me what you think?
I did
so he had to make it look like he was giving me a compliment.
Well, he was giving you a compliment.
It certainly is with your creepy green arms. Brian doesn't like it, and neither do we.
I didn't say that.
Well, you didn't have to.
The first thing he said this morning when I gave him the game was, I've got to go to IMDb and make sure that it's there already.
Yeah, he wants his credit on IMDb.
Look, if I'm going to get... Is this on? If I'm going to get pummeled, mercilessly, I'm going to make sure it's up on IMDb.
Yeah, go to Brian's IMDb site and then look at a real actor's site before you look at your one credit for a voiceover on a video game.
RAM.
Believe me, I'm not deluding myself at all.
Well, you're
an actor. I'm not.
Don't sell yourself short. There's a couple of Steve did a sketch we have audio of. Do we have a couple just lines? We have like little lines from Steve. And if you want to see somebody emote, I mean, this kid is good.
Well, give the setup too for Brian.
It was a sketch where Steve, you want to explain the sketch to Mr.
No, not really.
It was one of our interns, Bill, played a weird guy who walks into Steve's house, and it's a bizarre sketch, and Steve just has such emotion, and it turns out that in the sketch, Bill's parents have died, so Steve has to ask Bill, how did your parents die? There's just a lot of emotion in it.
And then there's another part where he says, why not? Now listen to the emotion. The difference, the dynamic between how did your parents die and just an ordinary why not grabbed randomly from his lines. Here's why not.
Why not? How'd your parents die? Why not? How'd your parents die? Why not? How'd your parents die?
Do you detect the emotion in the parents dying part?
Well, maybe is it good as an actor to just kind of like say everything the same and figure that the audience can put in the pauses where they feel it's necessary?
Or the emotion, or the dynamic, or anything.
Steve is like Mad Libs with emotion. Like, he'll throw out the lines and then let the audience fill in however they feel about it.
Well, it's a very difficult thing to I can't really tell from just hearing those two lines.
Oh, yes, you can, because that's it. That's his range.
Well, it seems to me it sounded real. That's sometimes that's the best you can get. I mean, the thing about
Brian Cox, it sounded real.
He'll put that on his bio.
He'll put it on his bio as a credit. Quotes around
Can I hear it again?
Yeah, here he goes.
Why not? How'd your parents die? Why not? How'd your parents die?
Well, there was a genuine intention there. You could hear the intention was that he really wanted to know how their parents died. So, in fact, he succeeded quite well. I don't think that's bad at all. And also, he didn't let emotion get in the way.
Right.
But what I want to know is, what does the why not relate to? I don't get the why not, and doesn't really relate to how why.
What was why not again?
Was it that Bill wanted to come in, and he said, "Can I come in?" And you said, "Why not?"
Yeah.
It was. I can't go home, and he couldn't.
Oh, he can't go home, and then he said, "Why not?" And he goes, "My parents died."
And then Steve, we have a response. Steve goes, "How'd your parents die?" But when Bill says, "My parents died," Steve has a response to that.
Yes.
Which is just thick with compassion and emotion.
Yes.
It's beautiful.
Some more Steve.
That's terrible. I'm sorry.
He has a little stammer thing.
That's terrible. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're embarrassed, which is fine. I can see that, and that's a kind of genuine emotion. This gentleman's parents have died, and you're embarrassed that they've died. And you're saying, hear it again?
Yes, of course, sir.
That's terrible. I'm sorry.
So you're saying that's terrible. I'm sorry. That's terrible. I'm sorry. That's terrible. I'm sorry.
The complete lack of.
That's terrible. I'm sorry. And it's like, I want to get out of the room because it's terrible, and I'm sorry. So I actually think you do it quite well. I'm actually rather impressed.
Wow.
Well,
thank you, sir.
Brian just took horse manure and made lemonade.
But you know, half the thing with all of this. I mean, I've just done this movie called Running with Scissors.
Yeah.
And the thing is, the material is so extraordinary. You don't don't have to do anything. You just sit back on it and let it ride you rather than try and ride it, because there's no way you could ever match it. Because
I'm looking forward to the movie. I read the book.
Yeah, it's a good movie.
It's a crazy story. Are you playing the psychiatrist?
I play Finch. Yeah, I play the doctor. Yeah,
the doctor. Yeah,
and the psychiatrist.
He adopts.
I adopt Augustine Burroughs. Yeah.
Right.
And it's a really good story. I mean, people have been going on about the veracity of it, the truth. Sorry, I don't want to use big words.
Okay. Yeah, Steve's still in the room.
Sorry, Steve. My apologies.
I'm sorry, I don't understand that.
That's okay. I'm sorry.
Terrible.
No, but the great thing is that it's actually it's a very extreme story, but actually the real story is probably much more extreme, and that's what people, the old thing, life is always much stranger and much.
Yeah, what's the story about for the people that maybe didn't read the book?
Well, the story is about a young man in the 70s, which says it all because that was the crazy time. So it was about a young man in the 70s whose mother is going through a kind of crisis, which is a crisis of self-esteem, and she wants to be famous, basically, because Andy Warhol said everybody should have 50 minutes of fame, so she thinks, well, why not me? And she writes this poetry, which is not very good, and she has these poetry readings which nobody comes to, and finally she's going through this breakup in the marriage, and her husband's an alcoholic, and the boy is there, and she's going through a crisis, and basically the boy is left abandoned, and so this doctor, who's her psychiatrist, adopts him. But then his family is wacky, and it's a really interesting kind of dimension because of just, it's like one of those it's like Harold and Maude, one of those Hal Ashby stories, of the 70s.
It didn't sound like something you hear all the time. Oh, that movie again.
No, exactly.
It doesn't sound like one of those.
But it's actually a period that I lived through, and we wore the most, nowadays, we wore clothes like that, we'd be locked up. They're awful.
Yeah.
It was the sartorial worst period ever. It was just disaster.
And what about Wolverine?
Yeah, well, I spoke to the writer yesterday, David Benioff, and who knows? They CGI'd in the last movie, X-Men 3, they CGI'd both Ian McKellen and Patrick Stewart to make them look 20 years old.
Yeah.
Actually, to make them look 30 years younger.
That was really amazing.
It was. In fact, they looked too young.
Yeah.
I thought, no, they've gone too far. I mean, Ian, apart from the fact that he sounded like some Oldham bookie, he looked as if he was just out of school,
Yeah.
So the voice and the face didn't quite match up. But it was amazing. And so if they can do the same for me, then I'm prepared to do the movie.
Yeah, obviously it's a prequel.
If they ask me, it's a prequel. And as people, everybody knows, Wolverine doesn't age. He's still Hugh Jackman, and he'll always be Hugh Jackman,
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Hugh Jackman's aging, so that they better hurry up. Because I'll have to then CGI him,
This movie with you, this has a really good cast. I'm looking at it as you're going over what the film's about. I mean, yourself, obviously, Annette Bening, Jill Clayburgh, who's been around for a long time.
He's fantastic.
Alec Baldwin. I mean,
he's also fantastic.
Great. Yeah,
it's. I think the great thing about the movie, excuse me, the great thing about the movie is the fact that everybody in it is at the top of their game. If you want Steve, he's gone. If you want real good acting lessons, you should go and see the movie because. They really are. I mean, Alec Baldwin he plays a small part, but he's so wonderful as this alcoholic. Joe Fiennes, I mean, the surprise of the movie for me is Joe Fiennes. Joe Fiennes, who's always played these guys in flouncy shirts and tights down to his
I don't know who he is. Is he related? He's not related to Ralph, is he?
He's Ray Fiennes' brother.
Oh, Ray, I'm sorry, Ralph.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's okay. Rafe.
Ray.
Ralph.
I pardon you.
Yeah, God almighty, how did I forget that? He was
I pardon you.
Yeah. No, he's wonderful in it, Joe. He was in Shakespeare in Love and a couple of other movies I can't remember.
We got to take a break, so Brian, this was definitely a thrill for us.
Absolutely.
Giving Steve acting lessons.
Yeah.
No, anytime.
And the film is called Running with Scissors. It opens in New York and Los Angeles on Friday, October 20th, which is this coming Friday, a few nights from tonight. And nationwide, it's on the 27th. So you're kind of getting a sneak preview here in New York and out in L.A. on this Friday. And then the rest of you get to see it a week later on the 27th.
The great Brian Cox. Thank you, man.
So much. Thank you.
I'm glad you came in.
It's been an experience.
You got to give a little acting lesson.
It's the One virus spreading across America.